5 o'clock here. It's that time again. Cannabis Show, getting ready for it. We got 66 degrees outside the studio here in Redway. You got it tuned to KMUD Garberville, 91.1 FM in HD1, KMUE Eureka, 88.1 FM in HD1, KLAI Laytonville, 90.3 FM. On the web at KMUD.org, and FM translator K258BQ, Shelter Cove, 99.5. I'm Javi. Stay tuned. We got Steve and Sunshine coming up. Remember, the views and opinions expressed throughout the broadcast day are those of the speakers, not necessarily those of the station staff or underwriters. Time will be made available for other viewpoints. Support for KMUD comes from Redwood Roots Distribution, LLC, homegrown in southern Humboldt. The Redwood Roots family is a values-driven grassroots family and company dedicated to protecting local heritage and culture while providing licensed retailers, manufacturers, distributors, and connoisseurs local sustainably grown products. Redwood Roots family can be reached at 707-923-1236 on the web at redwoodrootsfamily.com and on social media. KMUD is proudly supported by Mother Earth Engineering, a civil and environmental engineering company in Arcata. Mother Earth Engineering can help with licensed engineering services for land, water, and permitting projects. They can be reached at 707-633-8321 or on the web at motherearthengineering.com. Let's take it into Studio B, Steve, Sunshine, and their guest in the Cannabis Show. Howdy, guys.
Hey, thanks, Javi. What we were listening to?
That's Rolling Through the Roots.
Rolling Through the Roots. Well, thank you very much. That's Javi, our engineer. Yeah. And a little later, he'll be getting you in the studio if you should call. And you've got KMUD Community Radio's The Cannabis Show with your hosts, Steve Dodge and Sunshine Saraseta, and we're actually kind of excited to have Matt Hayashi here with us. He's an OSHA instructor, and he's going to tell us all about OSHA. I tell you the truth, with OSHA, I'm in between being terrified and wanting to do it right, and I'm hoping, I know, and I'm hoping here Matt's going to help us out with that. As always, we're going to be open to callers at the bottom of the hour, and we'll let you know then, and then we hope you call in. And thanks for getting into the studio, Matt.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, this is very exciting. I understand that you do trainings and pretty dynamic trainings, from what I've heard.
Yeah, we do. I'm an authorized OSHA trainer, Fed OSHA as well as Cal OSHA. But primarily in the cannabis space, as you know, I do Cal OSHA training because it's required. Got my authorization certificate about 4 years ago at Los Positas, Chabot Los Positas Community College. They have an excellent OSHA program for those who are interested, and I've been doing that. I'm really comfortable with the being in front of a regulated body. My background is pharmaceutical and medical device, and
so had you been on any farms prior to getting your OSHA certification?
No, been to a couple of distros and processings, but not a farm before then. So, when
hang on, just testing.
Yeah, my mic. I think my mic's on.
Okay.
I figured it out. Look, my mic isn't plugged in.
It needs to be plugged in.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
we are there.
We got you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. So, to answer your question, no. I've been to a couple of processing plants.
Yeah. So the question I asked was, had he been on any farms prior to getting OSHA certified?
No. So in 2019, I did some soul searching, and got laid off from my employer. And I don't know if you believe in happenstance.
I do.
It's kind of weird. I kind of do, but not really. So the day I got laid off was the day I was going to rent an office space and create this company, Cannabis Clearwater, what we have been going on since then. So I guess it was a sign. So I just went and rolled with it. Took the OSHA training, did that, and here we are. Trained over 200 students plus. We have a good team, and we do, in addition to the OSHA training, we do inspections, safety inspections, and.
So what's your area? I mean, it sounds like you go as far south as like Sonoma or Bay Area. I mean, what's your
We go
area?
all over we go all over the United States. We get calls from New York, Florida, Texas.
Just for weed, hemp, and cannabis farms?
Yep. We help get licensed. We do the permitting and licensing, safety inspections, security inspections. We're building a lab. That should be up and running next year.
What kind of a lab?
Testing facility lab, compliance lab.
Okay.
And genetic testing, and we're going to get that started. So, but right now, our passion right now is with the OSHA stuff. Because
so you get your lab together, you're going to have to get back in touch with us. You know that.
Sounds like you got a lot of things.
We will. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, it sounds like you got a lot of things going on, a lot of excitement. That's
It is. I mean, I've learned a lot for the past 4 or 5 years, and I'll be totally transparent. And everyone knows this when I do my OSHA training. I don't know anything about cannabis, other than my days when I was in college. Okay, but I don't know. Looking at a cultivar, I don't know a difference between OG Kush and Girl Scout cookies and Pineapple Express. And I mean, if someone took a sativa and indica in front of me, to be quite honest, I really don't know. I know regulations. I'm comfortable in front of.
We should just trade.
We should.
I'll be more than happy to teach you about.
Yeah, I'm still learning. I went to your local dispensary up there and still learning.
Wow.
Well, a lot of what OSHA requires is basically not really cannabis based, but industry based. It's the safety issues, the regulations, they apply to any industry, I would think. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But now that I said that out loud, do you know of any particular OSHA regulations that apply to cannabis?
Yeah. So in the state of California, not only cultivation, but nursery, as you know, dispensaries, lab, retail, indoor, outdoor, everyone has to take a 30-hour training course that is run by Cal OSHA. So if you're a grower, I know a lot of you are out there, you have to take the 30-hour training.
Yeah, that's the one I
That's
took.
what you took.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason, this is the reason why we do this. I'm holding my hands up, okay? So here's cannabis is down here. If you imagine me, I'm holding my hand down below, okay? And this is cannabis with respect to Cal OSHA, which is down below. Imagine like a level, and we're like at 1, okay? Everybody else is at a 10 within general industry Cal OSHA, okay? So what we're trying to do is bring everybody up.
I see.
Equivalent to everybody who is.
So you're saying that right now we're underperforming.
Yes. But it's not
to the rest.
It is, but it's nothing. They're not undermining. Cal OSHA is not undermining the industry. They're not.
Just trying to get us to catch up.
They're trying to get you to catch up.
So how much time do we have to catch up before it's not nice anymore?
Well, they're already knocking on your door.
Yeah.
Your colleagues know that. Mm-hmm. I get texts, pictures, emails all the time saying, "Hey, Matt, look what happened," or I got it. Guess who showed up on my door?
Okay, so before we go further, there's something you mentioned just before the show, and tell me if I got it right. If I'm a sole owner, I'm running the farm myself, OSHA isn't going to bother me.
No. So under the pull up here, under the State of California Department of Industrial Relations, there are certain requirements to get the Cal OSHA 30-hour general industry training requirement. And what they stipulate is, in accordance with the California Business and Professions Code, employers with 2 or more employees must ensure 1 supervisor and 1 employee have successfully completed a Cal OSHA 30-hour general training.
Okay, so then my farm would be subject to OSHA if I had myself and 2 other people.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
What if I had myself, my daughter, and my second cousin?
Well, they look at it as a business. So I get it. If it's a family-run farm, if it's a family-run nursery, depending on how your employer work chart is, that will ultimately determine whether or not you need to have the 30-hour.
What's kind of interesting is now you've kind of defined a family farm.
Right.
Is you don't need OSHA training.
They're going to see it. I get what you're saying. They might see it otherwise. They get the family farm thing. But really, I mean, they're going to look at it as if you got your provisional, and a lot of people did, then they're going to presume that you're going to have 2 or more employees working on the farm.
Yeah.
And by that rationale, Cal OSHA is going to expect you to take the 30-hour.
In other words, if it's just me and 1 other person, I'm going to have to prove that.
Right.
Okay.
Which is easily done. So this is what I say to all my students.
Okay.
I say this, and I'll ask you. Let me ask you the question: do you think OSHA or Cal OSHA? Do you think they have the power to shut your business down?
They do.
How so?
Because if you get inspected and then you're not up to, if someone's like in danger working on your site,
okay,
they might consider that depending on the safety issue.
But do they have the power to knock on your door right now and go, someone got in an accident, we're closing your shop? Do you think they have the power to do that? And it's a lead-up question.
Right. It depends on probably the accident, the severity of it, I suppose.
The short answer is no, they don't.
I was going to say yes. No, they don't.
No.
Okay.
You have to remember, and all my students know this, you have to remember Cal OSHA is a steward for the employees. Their mission is to protect the employees. Their mission is to find out why someone got hurt. Their mission is not to shut you down.
So now, it's somewhat progressive in its approach.
So here's how it works. Here's how they do it. They are really close to the judge. So they then themselves ask the judge to write the order to shut a business down. And I say this all the time. So Cal OSHA will knock on your door, and they're just doing their part in protecting the employees. Why did that person slip and break their leg? Why did that person's finger get chopped off in the the twister, or a pinky in the bucker, whatever, and
Sorry.
that's wrong saying, but I mean you get the gist. Why does someone's when they're doing a cold press, why is someone's finger smashed in the cold press?
Yeah,
that's their role, is to protect the employee.
Okay,
but they don't. If it came to that point, if there was an accident and they felt like we would have to shut this business down, they would go to the court and ask the judge to have an order to shut that business down. But they themselves don't, they really don't do that.
Okay. So at least there'll be a slight delay before they shut you down. That's always useful to know. We're kind of veering off of some of the questions I had,
absolutely.
But I was just working in my beds this afternoon, and it was. I wanted to push. I know it's going to be really hot, and so I figured it's less hot today. I need to work, and I did. And on a farm, my farm doesn't really care whether it's too hot for me to work. It still needs the work done, and it still wants me to be out there doing it. what's OSHA think about that?
Well, in the state of California, you're required to get trained under heat illness and prevention because California's hot. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah,
We've
of
been
course.
having record-breaking years and during the summer, and now it's, we can, undeniably say it gets hot during December and January.
So, so is there like a specific temperature once you get past a certain temperature?
80 degrees.
Oh, really?
So if you go out and it's 80 degrees or hotter, your employee has a right to request a shade, and many breaks and whatnot. But 80 degrees is
That's the point.
that's the point.
So then, just if you're going to be a kind employer, you'd want to have some shade available. You'd want to have maybe.
Well, it seems like that might be, if it's 80 degrees in the shade, that might be a. I mean, I was just thinking, it's it depends on the wind factor too, because it might be 80 degrees out, but you get like a little coastal breeze or something coming through.
But sunshine most of the time now that the summer started. It wasn't yesterday, the first day of summer. It started. It's going to be over 80 regularly. But I don't think that Matt's saying that's when the business shuts down, but it's when you have to take precautions.
When it comes to heat, yeah.
Yeah.
When you specifically ask for heat when it gets hot outside,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
And the
And-
typical precautions are shade space, regular breaks.
Regular breaks, shade, access to shade, plenty of water, cold water, clean water. Do the buddy system. Wear white clothing. You don't want your employees to get a heat stroke. That's the last thing you want to do.
No.
So you want to call 911 if they do. But, I get it. During the harvest, it gets hot. I know it. And you want to have, these accesses for them to recuperate. Because during the harvest time, it gets hot up here and Palm
Now,
Desert out there. So.
I'll point out to our listeners as well that OSHA to the side, as the heat comes on, I might foolishly push through because I'm stubborn. Hope people are listening. And but in my employees, and I guess myself too, we start getting groggy. We get funny. We don't make proper decisions because we're too hot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a real factor, especially when the heat is severe.
Yeah. Well, I throughout my training, I tell the employers, because I do get a lot of employers taking the class.
Yeah.
I tell them, hey, you're responsible for your employees. And one of the best ways to do that, to protect your employees, is look at the heat index. What is going to be the heat index tomorrow? So this is an example of the heat index. You've all seen this, right?
But I never paid attention to it. Yes, I've seen it.
Okay, so this is a table that has relative humidity on the vertical axis there and temperature on the horizontal.
Right.
So you're comparing your humidity to your temperature.
Right.
Okay.
And, the bottom line is if you're in this red, dark red, the really hot areas, you really don't want to have your workers out there.
Okay, so that there's no numbers in that area.
Right.
It's just red. Extreme danger.
Yeah, but the numbers stopped when it was saying 138. And I'll tell you, somebody's getting a bonus if they're trying to go out in 138.
They're getting a big bonus if they're harvesting.
Or maybe they're getting
getting
getting hauled off to the hospital. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Heat
so-
index. Huh?
Right. And that's part of the training that goes along with it, because I am required by my bosses who are Cal OSHA to train that. Outside of California, I'm not required. But in California, I am required.
Yeah, California's stricter, right?
California, as you know, is the strictest of safety.
Yeah.
If you took it, and I do this for my students, I do all of the demonstrations and I show them, this is what you're taking, and I'll pull this up for you. This is what you're taking, all of this stuff. So, managing safety, the history of OSHA, exit routes, electrical, introduction to industrial hygiene, PPE, hazard communication, health hazards, confined spaces.
It's funny too, because as you say that, my 30-hour training is coming back to me.
Back, right?
I swear to God. Oh.
So we have all of this stuff, and it's a lot. Colorado, 2 sections: safety and health programs, and I think confined spaces. Oregon, as you know, not too many. Okay, so yeah, California, I agree. California has the highest. But, it kind of makes sense from a safety perspective because you kind of want to train them to all this stuff because they just don't know.
Well, I tease sometimes the people who come work for me. Sometimes I'll tease them. I say, look, if you chop off your hand, you're just not going to be any use to me anymore. And, they laugh, but I'm trying to get them to pay attention. That safety is a big issue. Look, I'm gonna jump in here real quick and remind our listeners that got KMUD Community Radio's The Cannabis Show with your host Steve Dodge and Sunshine Saraseda, and we're talking OSHA. We're talking with Matt Hayashi. Thank you.
That's fine.
With Matt Hayashi. And if you're out there, open up those ears, knock out the cobwebs, pay attention. I think this is going to be illuminating, at least I hope so. We'll be opening for callers in about 10 minutes. Okay, you were going to show us?
So what I'm showing you right now is the website, the United States Department of Labor. Okay, these are the top 10 most frequently cited standards as of fiscal year 2021. Okay. Number 1 is fall protection. Number 2 is respiratory protection. Number 3 is ladder safety. 4 is hazard communication in general industry. That's really important. 5 is scaffolding. 6 is fall protection. 7 is control of hazardous energies. It's like your lockout, tagout type of stuff.
Yeah.
8 is your PPE. 9 is your powered industrial trucks or your forklift safety, scissor lift. And 10 is machinery and machine guarding, because everyone likes to remove the guards.
Yeah, no. Okay, so I have a Kubota tractor. I'm the only one who I will allow to run it.
Good.
Does that make OSHA happy?
It's they don't look at it as happy. They look at it as, if you do allow somebody else to run the tractor, are they trained to that tractor?
I see. So once again, it's back to a safety concern.
Right. So I explain it to all of them, all of my students. Training is key. And when I do day 1, they're just like, they don't know what I'm talking about. But day 4, when I talk about training, their eyes start rolling. Like, okay, man, I get it. Training, Jesus, I get it. But that's great that their eyes are rolling because they know now it's in their subconscious. And now they have to, I'm hoping that because I trained last week, they're going to start training this week.
I'm going to assume that OSHA wants some sort of verified training, though.
They have to document the training.
What's that mean?
That means if you have a tractor and you want someone to run your tractor, you have to train them to the tractor, how to do it, safety, all that other good stuff. And then they sign on a document, I've been trained to the tractor.
Oh.
Okay.
Then you sign afterwards. Mm-hmm. So I have I give my students hundreds of documents for them to have. Because the end of the day, OSHA is going to ask for it. And I know exactly which documents that they're going to want.
Yes.
So I give that to them. I give them the templates. Other OSHA instructors, they charge huge amounts of money, which I think that's not fair. So what I do during my training, I just give it to them. I just give them the template. All they do is fill in their company name, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then they have it. So when a OSHA inspector knocks on the door and they go, hey, do you have an IIPP? They go, yeah, it's right here. Okay, great. They check it off the list. So it's easier for me to give it to them. I feel more comfortable because I don't want anyone that I'm training to get cited. My worst fear is someone that I trained and get a citation. That means I haven't done a good job. That means I trained somebody and somebody got a $4,000 citation for not doing confined space or something like that. And that's not where we stand. You know, we try to make it a go above and beyond. So.
Well, I got to hand it to you, because certainly with something like OSHA, your students must appreciate it.
So, yeah. What's one of the bigger, or what's the most common violation for growers?
Here,
it
ask me all the time.
It depends on the different
regions?
regions?
No, it doesn't. No, I can tell you right now. I can tell you the top 5.
And
Please
is this
do.
just for outdoor, or is it for like
for
indoor
everybody.
greenhouse?
No, they haven't broken it down yet, but
Okay.
top 5 for OSHA, Cal OSHA citations.
For us growers?
Sure. For us growers, for you growers out there.
Yeah, what are we?
Everybody, outdoor, indoor, mixed light, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Hazard communication.
No.
You got to understand that.
Oh darn! I guess we had the wrong idea what a safety meeting was about.
Is that really what it is, though?
Yeah.
It's
called hazard communication. Because
Okay.
when you think about it, so Cal OSHA looks at it as you're not just a grower, you're just in the cannabis space. That's just how they see it. Okay, they get that you're a grower, but they have to look at it from a bigger picture. Okay, so it's nothing against you because you grow. They're for the industry. They just want to make sure that you're training your employees to that specific standard. They want you to meet up to that standard. So, hazard communication.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is electrical safety.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. Another one that I teach, or that we teach, is the OSHA 300 logs. Under normal circumstances, Cal OSHA instructors, they don't teach that. And I do, as part of my curriculum.
Okay.
You got to understand how to fill this out.
What is a 300 log?
So a 300 log, for all of this to work, and once you get your 30-hour certification, you have to understand you are in the system. You get your card, you have a register number, you're in there. Okay, so they expect you to understand a certain system. One of the responsibilities is filling out an injury log. It's called your 300. Okay? And that's just, it's a piece of paper saying, Joe got hurt, Steve cut his finger. Steve cut his finger while he was trimming. Okay.
This would be a daily log, weekly?
It's a yearly log.
Okay.
And I'll pull it up. And you have to understand that if you incorrectly fill that out, you will get cited. Okay?
So if you don't have any logs and evidence at all, you're going to get cited.
Yeah. There you will.
Okay.
So I'll pull this up. So the 300 log and the scrolling this down here. Okay, so this is your injury log. You have to fill this out. For example, if Steve cut his finger and it was beyond first aid, like he chopped it off, Steve would go to the doctors, right? And if you were the owner, you would have to fill this out. What is Steve's name? What is Steve's role? What is his position? Where did he cut his finger off? Was he away from work? It's a log where you record injuries.
Okay.
Now, the reason you do that is because at the end of the year, you have to tally up how many injuries were on your farm. And you have to fill out this other form on February 1st to April 30th. Okay? This is called your 300A. Now, the 300A is your summary of work-related injuries and illnesses. Everyone has to post this. So everyone in the cannabis industry, and I don't care if it's dispensary, lab, indoor, outdoor, distro, whatever, you have to post this. And if you don't post this, I guarantee you'll get cited because it's required in the Cal OSHA. It's required as a standard. And it's not just you that does this. If I went to your local restaurant between February 1st and April 30th, I guarantee they would have this up there posted.
I mean, just looking at injuries, it's like, it's kind of one of the things that OSHA doesn't quite cover very well is when you're working and you're doing repetitive work. And you don't know how many workers I've met who did repetitive work who are now at home with chronic pain, smoking a ton of weed because they worked some job that got them hurt. And they're, it's like they did. I mean, I think it's often just with repetitive type work. So they pulled some muscles and things, but that's not necessarily going on the log. Like some of that gets lost because it's like a repetitive type job that can give you an injury.
You sure about that?
But it's not really talked about.
It's not talked about, but it is part of the standard. We cover ergonomics, and I'm required to teach ergonomics. If you get carpal tunnel, if you're a trimmer and you get carpal tunnel, you have to, one, record it, and then send that employee to see a doctor, a healthcare professional, to assess the damage. Grocery store, cashiers that have the wrist brace, I mean, what do they got? If you see a cashier, what do they got if they're wearing a wrist brace?
Right, carpal
tunnel. Okay.
Yeah.
So the manager of that grocery store, the safety manager, has to record that as an injury or an illness. Okay.
And then the employer is required to send the employee off to a doctor.
Yes.
Who pays for the doctor?
It depends on the type of insurance that the employer has, right?
Let's assume none at all.
That's a great question. I don't know. I would have to look that up.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I just,
it's
curious.
a good question. Yeah.
Insurance is always kind of like, I have insurance, but I don't really know what it covers.
Right.
If it would cover that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
It just seems like ergonomics is one of the most important things because it's so daily.
It is.
And it sneaks up on people. And they can end up hurt and not even know they're hurt.
Yep.
And so it's kind of really up to the employer to make sure to take the time and to ask questions and to make sure that people are working in a way that's not going to undermine their health and well-being. So, it's...
well, the trimmers, when it comes to ergonomics, it's the trimmers, right?
Yeah.
No, it's in cultivation as well.
Okay.
So it's any kind of job where you're doing the same thing for like a few hours.
Yeah.
And so if you have to carry a bunch of plants. So one of the things, if you have to carry a potted plants and you keep doing it all day long, depending on how you carry that potted plant, you're going to strain these muscles in your hand that they never get better again.
Yeah.
And they're always going to be sore.
Yep.
Or they're always going to be weak. And so that's just one situation. Or transplanting. You're sitting there transplanting a bunch of pots. Or you're working in these beds in the greenhouse trying to do
something
these crazy
very repetitive
acrobatic movements in a greenhouse while stretched out across, or working on your back, lying on the bed, pruning or thinning, or there's all these kind of weird that you can do for a lot of hours. So all that becomes important because you're doing it for... Yeah, I feel like the repetitive stuff it's really important to break those tasks up so that you're not just doing that same thing. Or if someone is doing it, you have to at least watch them or guide them or make some changes to how they're doing it or talk to them about it and be like, hey, be careful. Or
let's get back to this in just a second.
Yeah.
It's the bottom of the hour. I'd like to remind our listeners that this is a call-in show. In fact, the show you would be calling into is KMUD Community Radio's The Cannabis Show with your hosts Steve Dodge and Sunshine Saraseta. And we're talking with Matt Hayashi, an OSHA instructor, all about OSHA. And I'm ringing on my phone. You can call in and ask him a question, make a comment. You can get us here at 923-3911. I'm sorry, guys. I got somebody dialing me here in the studio. I can't believe it. There we go.
Yeah,
I apologize. Okay, but you can get us in here, 923-3911. That's a 707. And Javi will get you in the studio. Give us a call. What Sunshine was talking about, there's a lot of repetitive actions, okay? And I'm kind of a training nut myself. And I often say for selfish reasons, I want it done the way I want it done. And because it'll produce a certain product. Okay, and in that analysis, I think about safety issues. You know, how I want it done so people don't get hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. One of my first things is if there's a way I can do it that they can't be exposed to danger, then that's the way I'll choose. But let's say that I've trained them, you know, but they ignore my training, and they do it however they see fit. And I see them and I stop them, but they're stubborn. I don't want you to think I haven't run across these people. Anyway.
I think I'm looking at one. No.
I know, you know. So what do you do with that kind of thing where you actually did train somebody, they ignored the training and hurt themselves?
You pull them aside and you give them that conversation that you normally don't want to talk about.
Oh, okay. Is this a situation where I'd start to resort to signed documents?
No, it's what you do is you pull them aside and say, hey, listen, we've gone over the training. I told you how to do this. You haven't done what I've liked you to do. You know, you have to have that talk. I get it. It's a tough talk. But
Okay, it is.
But you're protecting.
It's also, it's that, but then it's also just common sense. It's, well, if you get hurt today, you can't come tomorrow, and I really need you tomorrow too.
And that's common sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like.
And I always, you know, they ask me, your colleagues ask me that all the time. Like, I have this person, doesn't do what they want to do. And I go, well, are they married? Well, yeah. I'm like, well, do they want to go home and see their spouse? You know, you just kind of bring it home. Talk about their loved ones.
Right.
Talk about their kids. Do you want to see your kids at the end of the day? You know, do you want to be in a hospital in a coma? Right. You go extremes because that grabs their attention. Right.
Yeah. No. That. You know, sometimes I feel that I really do have to beat it into people's heads about safety.
Hey, there's.
Well, what do you think? What do you think? Is that rhetoric too strong?
Beating people in the heads about safety is counterproductive.
I know it's an oxymoron.
I know,
it's an oxymoron. I know that. Well, but come back. Let's get back to the. You said 5 things.
Yeah. So okay, electrical 300, 301. So there's another form, the 300, 300A, and 301. The other form is a more detailed of what the accident is. Okay. So the other one is the facility does not have a formal fire prevention plan. You just don't. Right. But I get it. All of you have submitted your application for a provisional. Right. So you have something. You had to submit it. But from a Cal OSHA perspective, do you have one? And I give them all of the documentation for that. Mm-hmm. So,
is this something you would have posted on a bulletin board?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. I show videos all the time when I'm doing training. I mean, everyone knows Jorge Cervantes. So I show Jorge Cervantes videos. The one he did an OSHA one, and it was great. So he visited. Yeah, he went to a grow.
I gotta go see this.
I'll show it to you after the hour. I'll show it to you. But he did one. He's like, oh, this is OSHA stuff. And so the grower or whoever it was, this is our OSHA board. So, yeah, and I show that to the students.
Okay.
Fire prevention plan, that's huge. PPE. I always kind of get into an argument with the growers. Yeah. Lab people, they know PPE. Dispensers, they don't have to worry about PPE. Cultivators and nursery people, I have an issue. We always duke it out in a good way. Mm-hmm. Really, really great conversations. And I always tell, I think this is what's going to happen in the next 5 years. This is just my personal feeling in the next 5 to 10 years. Hearing loss is going to be huge.
Okay, so we're talking about personal protective.
Yeah, so we're talking about PPE.
Personal protective equipment. Okay, so
you don't have the proper, face
so
mask, gloves.
Okay, so you're saying hearing loss?
Hearing loss is going to be huge.
Why?
This is because with everyone out there who has 16, 17-inch fans, and you have like 40 of them, right?
Really?
And yeah.
They make enough noise.
Right. And I'm just using this as an example, okay? I take it to the extremes because it gets their attention. But what I'm saying is, the rule is, if you go into a room that is higher than 85 decibels, you have to provide to your employees ear protection, earmuffs.
Or they could just oil the gearing in their fans, which would also help.
Yeah. So I have a gauge.
But the deal is the decimal level.
Yeah, 85 decibels.
Right. That's actually pretty hard. That's pretty high.
It is high.
Yeah.
And, cheers to those who don't have it, whose levels is below 85, which is great. But what I'm saying is you get into a warehouse with a whole bunch of fans and it's higher. Because that's what I do. When I inspect, I have an app here. And when I go into a room, I measure, how loud it is using my hearing app, my decibel app. Okay? So I go into a room and it's higher than 85 and they're not having hearing protection. I have to tell them.
Of course.
Not only that, you're putting your employees in harm's way because they're in there 8 hours a day doing whatever they have to do. And long-term illnesses, they're going to lose their hearing.
Okay. And they won't lose it right then. They'll lose it later.
Probably later.
Now, that's pretty scary. That part right there, that part's really scary.
Right.
Yeah, those fans, they can get loud. Like my neighbors, they're like a whole parcel over from mine, and it sounds like there's like jet engines going on over there. Like, geez, like a little.
Right.
It's kind of loud, yeah.
So then the PPE and that would be earmuffs of some kind?
Yep. Standardized.
Or plugs?
No, plugs don't work.
Oh, plugs
but
don't
it
work.
have to be standardized hearing earmuffs that lower like 23 decibels.
Okay.
So here's my other personal thing that I think what's going to happen. You go into particularly in the nursery because you have a whole bunch of Gavitas, or if you have Luxes, you have a whole bunch of them. I think eye damage, because they're in that room and it's so bright, I think that might be an issue. Because if they're in there on average 8 hours a day in a nursery and they're not wearing sunglasses or protective sunglasses and they're always looking up, I think that might cause some retinal damage.
Well,
I can't verify that.
I think you're right. I don't have any verification, but I've been in grow rooms and I've looked up and seen a HID, and it hurt. And often there would be a few moments when I really couldn't focus just a little bit. Mm-hmm. But doing that...
Shoot, the LEDs can be...
The same thing. And
a lot, too.
And doing that over and over and over repetitively, I can see how it would cause damage. I mean,
Yeah. So, a lot of this, you have to remember, a lot of this is because you're protecting the employee. Okay? I'm not trying to be like the hall monitor in high school handing out all this stuff, right? Here we're in the spirit of creating safety in your environment. So here's the good news. The good news is, for every dollar that you put into safety, you get a $4 to $6 return from your employee. That's just the data. For every dollar you put into safety, you get a $4 to $6 return. Not only that, you get a higher morale and lower turnover. So how's that?
Well, that's a winning argument.
It is.
It
is. And it's been proven time after, almost 100 years it's been proven. Mm-hmm. When we started, Mr. Strauss, who built the Golden Gate Bridge, and people who took my class, they know who Mr. Strauss is. He created the Golden Gate Bridge. Well, he invested tons of money into the biggest safety net underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, and 7 to 11 people fell, and it saved their lives. But nobody died. And he's kind of like the godfather or grandfather of safety. Okay. He invented hard hats, helmets, all that stuff.
Whoa.
So,
okay.
But the gist is, it's not, we're not just doing, I'm not just saying you got to do this, you got to do that. What I'm saying is, hey, this is a good investment because your employees will be happy and you get to recognize them of their work and you get a bigger output. Your ROI is going to be pretty substantial.
Well, I try to run my ops when I do have employees in a team-based way, right? And they come, I believe, employees come to appreciate that you care for them, right? And because you're telling them, well, why don't you sit down for a minute, or here's some water for you, little things just like that. And it's a safety directed thing, and they know that you care.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Well, and so I'm a board member of the Sonoma County Growers Alliance, and we get together once a month. We talk about ourselves, kind of like Mendocino and Humboldt and all that. We all get together, right? Origins.
Yeah, you're doing
I know
a lot.
Janine. Yeah, I know
you're
Mike.
busy.
Right. So we, a lot of the, a lot of my colleagues, and I'm not even a grower, right? I'm just a safety guy, right? But they talk to me about certain things, and we go over it. I mean, I've trained a lot of people in Sonoma County on safety and training, so they get it. And my thing is, I'm hoping everyone else understands that. I know that they're forced to take the training, but what I'm saying is the output after the training is going to reward you immensely, right? A lot. It really is.
Yeah, it's hard for people. It's hard for me to see, but I understand the logic of it. I'm going to jump in here real quick. If you have a question, you can get it in. You got 5 minutes. I'll be taking calls for another 5 minutes. Give a call if you got one. And you can get us right here, 923-3911. Now, that's a 707-923-3911. I'm sure Matt can help you out. But don't delay.
So what about one of the things, too, that comes up is just at harvest, just the exposure to resin. And it comes up in, a lot of different ways. So it comes up in the trim room. It comes up when you're bucking down. It comes up, a lot of that should just be done in, an open-air room, ideally. Not even really for, especially bucking down. You see poofs of resin coming out. And I wonder, the more and more, I hear stories about people who've been exposed to resin so often that eventually they develop, an allergy to it. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering what your experience is with that, because the only thing I can really think of is just, of course there's masks, but there's also, your skin is also getting in contact. I think showering every day, even before you leave the farm, so that you could just and that's just another repetitive action. You can go for a few days, no issue, but you start doing that for a week, and then you start going into especially by the second week, you might start feeling, okay, I'm going home with a flu-like symptom. You're like, oh, wait, it's because I've been around resin all day.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts about that?
You ask, so if it's a 1099, like your trimmers, if you're 1099 your trimmers, or if you have them full-time employee, you ask them if they know that they're allergic to any of the cannabinoids or the terpenes.
Sure.
Straight up in front.
And you can mandate mask. You have to wear a mask, or you can do it like you suggested, Sunshine, in a large.
I mean, even just
room.
washing your face and washing your arms at the end of the day, just with cold water and soap. That
could help
a lot.
In the world of OSHA, there's a hierarchy of controls. Okay, you have the right to control how you want to control your safetiness, right? You can replace a chemical with another chemical. You could open up ventilation. You can control the engineering. You can rotate employees. There's a lot of various controls that help mitigate exactly what you're talking about. The allergy thing, you want to catch that ahead. You ask them if they're allergic, and if they're not,
well, sometimes a lot of times they'll tell you.
Yeah.
They'll be I just react or whatever. They'll tell you and then.
So then you have to,
How does that go? In terms of just, even in general.
We got a caller. Let's get him in before we run out of time. Hi.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt, but we did have someone who called who just wanted to know where Matt's going to be providing, his services, and if this so here in Humboldt and where else. And
okay, well, thanks.
Yeah. Let's take care of that now.
Yeah, a caller wanted to know where Matt is providing his services right now.
We're doing a OSHA training actually starting. Look it up here, and it's online. It's Zoom. When was my next training? June 27th through the 30th online. So if you go to cannabis-clearwater.com, you'll see the OSHA registration. So, and if you click on that link here, you're able to register, and it's 4 days, 8 to 5.
And would you give us your web address again?
Yeah, it's www.cannabis-clearwater.com.
Okay, thanks.
And you can just register there.
Thanks. There was one question I wanted to ask before we ran out of time, because as usual, somehow we creep up to the top of the hour. I don't know what that's about. But so here comes the first inspection.
Okay.
What can I do to make a good impression?
Be clean.
Be clean. You're not talking like take a bath that day.
No, I'm talking make sure your office is clean.
Okay.
Make sure. So,
A clean office.
yeah, I get it. So here's the thing, and you know, I could say
Okay,
this because
all
I've been
right.
in the industry. You know.
Oh, wait, we do have a call. Yeah, let's take it.
Okay, let's take a call. This will be our last one. Hi, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
Hi, I've got a Cal OSHA question.
Sure.
If you're the owner and the main employee of your business, but every once in a while you hire a personnel service during push times for maybe leafing or trimming, whose responsibility is the OSHA training? Is it the personnel service or is it the individual farm owner?
It ultimately goes down to the owner because you're hiring a service. If that makes sense.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
Let me expand on that a little bit so I'm clear. The company that I hired the workers from is not responsible for their OSHA training?
No, what the caller's talking about is if you 1099, if you hire a service and somebody gets hurt,
Yes.
ultimately it's going to be your responsibility to provide the safety for them. You're responsible for
Okay,
that.
thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for clarifying that. So be clean.
Yeah. So my background again is pharmaceutical and medical device, and I've been regulated. I know all that stuff. Okay, it's a game. You all know it's a game. Everyone knows it's a game.
You're squeaky clean.
So here? This is what I talk about during the training. If you're an OSHA inspector and you go into an office and there's stuff hanging around, there's books flying, there's dirt, there's books everywhere, paperwork, right?
And you.
And it's just in disarray, it's unorganized. What do you think the OSHA inspector is going to think? It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a very long day. And I'm just starting into this office. Versus if an OSHA inspector goes into an office and everything's organized, everything is labeled, you know, they have their name pins, they see the OSHA binders. What does that tell the OSHA inspector? You know, it's going to be a short day because they know that they're playing the game and we're going to do this correctly. Okay.
And doesn't it also kind of indicate that if you're taking that attention to the facility, that you're probably taking that attention to the employees as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to train your employees to that stuff. Proper, you know, OSHA responses, verbal actions, verbal cues, pick up those verbal cues.
Right.
Short answers, don't ramble. Right? Get whatever they're asking for. You don't lead them to it. You get what they want and bring it back to them. And if they ask for a tour, you take every single picture that they're taking. You write every single thing down that they're writing. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, what it comes down to is you are essentially giving them what they are looking for. But the problem is it's the cannabis industry. It's the wild, wild west, right? We're still in it. I get it. I mean, I trained a lot of people up and down, Palm Springs, all the way up to, you know, Crescent City, you know, Chico, everywhere. So they just have to pay attention to those cues, you know.
For sure.
So
I'm going to assume that it's a bad idea to lie to OSHA.
to lie, yeah, you never really want to lie to a governmental official. Yeah, you never want to.
You're setting yourself up to get caught.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they'll know. At the end of the day, they'll know.
Okay.
So. And they give you a lot of latitude too. They'll like if you have a broken ladder, they'll just say, "Fix the broken ladder. We'll come back and take a look," or email us a picture of a ladder, and you'll be fine.
Okay, gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, we actually did make it to the top of the hour, and I got to tell you, Matt, that I think we could have talked on. And I'd certainly love to get you back on as a guest if you have time in the future.
Absolutely.
These OSHA issues that all of us up here have to deal with, they're not going away. And we do have to start, if you're not already addressing them out there, farmers, then you need to. Anyway, do you have any closing remarks?
Really just to be safe, keep our employees safe, and sign up and take the Cal OSHA 30-hour.
And things actually popped back. They really did. At the beginning of the show, I was telling you, I took that and I can't remember a thing. But that's not true. It isn't. So you've been listening to KMUD Community Radio's The Cannabis Show with your host, Steve Dodge, and Sunshine Saraseda. And we've been talking with Matt Hayashi, I'm sorry.
It's
Hayashi, an OSHA instructor about all things OSHA. It's been fascinating. And next week, there it is. Next week, I hope to have, and we will have, Alec Dixon, who's a founder of the SC Labs. And we're going to be talking about terpenes, which we've been exploring on and off here.
That's right, huff and terpenes.
Huff and terpenes. I think terpenes are the wave of the future.
It's the natural way to huff.
That's right. Anyway, terpenes next time. Tune in, listen in, call in, and we'll be waiting for you.
And I just want to thank KMUD and all the volunteers who helped out with the live broadcast of the Summer Arts Fair. It was much appreciated, so thank you, KMUD.
Yeah, KMUD rocks. And I want to thank you again, and good night to you, Matt, and good night, Sunshine.
We'll never settle, foot on the pedal, hot like a kettle, we keep rolling, rolling, rolling. Get the fire burning, 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 right until the morning, morning, morning. Just a little puff up my spliff enough to keep me going. We keep rolling, rolling, rolling. Get the fire burning, 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 right until the morning, morning, morning. You just gotta roll on, roll on, roll up.
Redwood Community Radio is supported by Humboldt Seed Company, who thank KMUD listeners for 20 years of support in breeding and seed production. Humboldt Seed Company knows firsthand how challenging it is to get licensed and are here to help locals keep an edge over the competition. Retail locations and more information at HumboldtSeeds.com. Support for KMUD has been provided by the Lost Frenchman Wood-Fired Pizza in Redway, serving breakfast and dinner specials as well as panini salads, juices, and smoothies made with fresh, local, and organic produce. Gluten-free and vegan options are available. The Lost Frenchman is open Monday through Friday, 9:30 to 8:30. 923-2030 for takeout or reservations.
Don't cut down the cali tree. That give me what I need. You need to cut it up, grind it and pick out the seeds. Yeah, mission incomplete. If I add the sheets, spin some paper on the paper that I want to read. Roll up. The lighter makes it bright, you gotta glow up. This weed will make you weak, you gotta grow up. Smell it from a mile away, and now you know us. Know us. Just rolling, rolling, rolling. With the fire burning, burning, burning. Right until the morning, morning, morning. Just a little puff up my spliff enough to keep me going. We keep rolling, rolling, rolling. With the fire burning, burning, burning. Right until the morning, morning, morning. You just gotta roll on, roll on, roll up. Rolling, rolling, rolling. Burning, burning, burning.
Yeah.
Hey, hey, we keep rolling, rolling, rolling. Get the fire burning, burning, burning. Right until the morning, morning, morning. Just a little puff up my spliff enough to keep me going. We keep rolling, rolling, rolling. Get the fire burning, burning, burning. Right until the morning, morning, morning. You just gotta roll on, roll on, roll up. Hey, roll up a spliff and then we light. Yeah, hey, we never let one to supply. One long draw, we'll send you on a flight.